Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have back with us Scheavosky McGawion, who's the founder of McGawion Insurance Pros, and we'll be talking about building trust and long-term relationships. Scheavosky, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Mike. How are you, sir? Thank you for having me on again.
You're welcome. And, I love the sound of this topic because I think too many times people just realize that, okay, you're just looking at me like some number in a sale and you just want to sell me this thing. But when you get someone like yourself that's a pro in building relationships, long-term relationships and trust, that just turns the world on edge because most of the time people are out there just thinking through their back pocket going, give me my sale and move on, and people never hear back from them. So let's talk a little bit about your approach. How do you build trust and long-term relationships with your clients after they purchase an insurance product?
Well, again, thanks for having me on, Mike. I think one of the things that's a sturdy practice of mine is to thank the customer, one, for placing their business with me, placing their initial trust with me, in order to take care of their affairs of what they've purchased in the insurance realm. So we always try to send out that initial email and a card or something just to say thank you, because there's so many opportunities to go in other directions. So once you become a client of McGawion Insurance Pros, our slogan is "Welcome to the Pros." So we have adopted a mentality of a professional. Mike, I was in the military, and one of our, actually three of our core values are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And I've carried that into my practice, and it's led to be successful in multiple areas because, again, not only, was I reared, with the golden rule in mind, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But when I joined the military and got those core values, that integrity speaks volumes in and of itself.
100%. And I feel like, I've got 4 kids, and as they were growing up, I was just guiding them in many ways, but in like the world of business or, school. If you can be responsive, if you can return emails and phone calls quicker, you stand out. So let's dive in a little bit deeper on your core values. You mentioned integrity, but what are your main core values, and then how do you apply them to serving your clients?
Number one, Mike, I really tout education as being the forefront of any business that we do with a consumer, because if they're not educated on the products that they're seeking, that could lend a disaster when it comes to the time where they think they have something or they lose a benefit because they didn't elect the appropriate rider or something to that facet. With me, we ensure that we lead with education, and that's really that service before self, right? We don't look at the commissions, and we don't worry about that aspect of it, because again, the consumer is coming to us to say, hey, I have a need, can you fill it? And if you do that with integrity, you'll be able to solidify his or her business. I'll tell you, with me and myself, what I tell my team is, we have to be relentless communicators. We have to take every opportunity there is to make sure that our clients know that we're here. We didn't make a sale in May of last year, and you can't get a hold of us before your next policy review, this May. We're already sending out communication to say, hey, we're at the third quarter here. Next quarter, we're going to be doing a policy review. Hey, can you go ahead and look at your calendar? Or, hey, better yet, book a time on our calendar, and we'll make sure we accommodate you. So that's that excellence piece. But being that we need to ensure that our consumer base is educated, I think that again is what sets us apart.
Yeah, talk a little bit about excellence, because to me, when I hear excellence, it means precision, precise. It means doing the right thing first, the right way. Because if you don't have time to do something right the first time, how are you going to find time to go back and fix the mistake that you made? So I feel like excellence really is a huge, huge value.
And that's very important, and that's why we take our time during the fact finding phase. We have like a 4-step process, and the most important process is that fact finding stage. We need to know your financial picture. We need to know what it is that you want. Yeah, you may want 200,000 of life insurance, but why? Why do you need it? Well, challenging the question
Yeah.
to ask why, because it may come to find out that because of the assets a consumer may have, you actually may need a half a million,
Yes.
so that finding process defines everything. It tees it up for us to move our consumers through the process with ease. And then ultimately, once we product deliver, whether if it's a IUL or whether it's a fixed index annuity, life insurance product, you name it, short-term, long-term disability, once they get that product, there's no question. We want to arm our people with enough knowledge that they can at least recite or articulate it to their neighbor.
100%. And that actually, when you were saying that, it made me realize that the mark of a true teacher educator is when the person that they're working with understands something so well that they can repeat it back. That means that the lesson landed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the time we find ourselves in right now during this particular interview, Mike, is, we're in AEP, annual enrollment period. So my seniors are being targeted right now. And I can't tell you the number of seniors that I've talked to that were put in a product last year and some of the downside of what the reasons they were put in there. But ultimately, Medicare it's a sensitive topic, right? And is it better for me to buy a Medicare supplement and keep original Medicare A and B, or should I get a Medicare Advantage plan, or should I
Yep.
do nothing because my husband is still working? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the different avenues, and again, in a situation like that, it may not render quote unquote a sale, but what you just done is you've impressed upon that consumer that, what, when I have a question again, I'm going to go back to them, and then who knows, that may be an opportunity to put them through our process and make them a customer of ours.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty big. We've talked about values, integrity, excellence, teaching, education. What happens on the flip side when someone goes to someone else in the industry that does not follow those kind of values? What kind of experience do they get?
They get sold, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of consumers like to be sold, because once you're sold, you're just a number. And again, in this industry, it's about building relationships first, not on the
Mm-hmm.
back end, not in the middle. It's about building those relationships first. So yeah, Mary or John may have been able to go and satisfy a need at the time, and as things would have it, you run across myself or one of my professionals, and then we take you through this gamut of education and asking, the tough questions, only to find out that, you probably got sold the incorrect product,
Mm-hmm.
but nevertheless, our tenant awful mistake, but to show how we can, reposition them, and assist in whatever it is that they need to ensure that family are protected,
Yes.
going into the future.
The fact that you mentioned being sold, people like to buy, but they don't like to be sold. They like to
Right.
understand the process to make buying decisions, but they don't want to feel forced. I really like that contrast. Can you think of a story or an example where your commitment to relationships and long-term trust has really made an impact in one of your clients' lives?
I mean, just just this year, I have had uh, two clients that we probably had a relationship. Well, I know the first client we've had a relationship over 10 years.
Wow.
They were some vital expense customers of mine. My husband just recently, sadly, just passed away, and the spouse is overseas serving in the as a federal employee in government. And so, once I found out this information, it was, obviously heartbreaking, but at the same time, we were able to assist them on every turn they needed, any forms that needed to be filled out, assisting where we could with, death certificate, assisting where we could with the funeral home, making sure that they could show that this policy wasn't subject to, incompatibility, which is
Mm.
a thing nowadays when you have policy that consumers have no idea what I just said, right? And then lastly, again, a situation where I had a client, her mother, although not a client of ours, passed, and you would have thought she was one of our clients because we offered that extensive I'm here for you type attitude, that service before self yet again, to make sure that the client knew that we were thinking about her and her loss.
Yeah, that's a big point. And, when you were describing the person overseas, they work for the federal government. But I know with your military background, you probably work with a good percentage of your clients that are military or federal. And so there's probably many layers of extra considerations that need to be done when working with those types of clients that you then can bring a special insights into to go, oh, you're going to need to have this form, or you're going to need to make sure this, and that would be an extra benefit that you're providing to someone given your experience, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we actually acquire, you know, uh, military personnel who are still serving, obviously they get the SGLI, the Service Group Life Insurance, through the federal government. But those individuals who still want something from the outside, want more, understanding the wartime clause in every insurance contract is vital, and not that we've had to exercise it, but again, talking about education, right? Talking about making sure people know that we're providing you excellence in all we do, because if I don't tell you that this war clause means that if you die subject to war, no matter what time frame it is, the policy is not going to pay. That may
Mm.
be a decision you need to make to say, yeah, as a military member, I don't want to involve myself with that. Or on the flip side, if you're a government federal employee sit on the civil service side, your FEGLI, as it's called, your FEGLI may not be, within your budget, because we do know it increases in five term intervals. Um, when you retire. So, although there's a free component to it, many people may think like, I can't afford to keep my whole family, me and my husband at least on this family. What other options do I have out there? So when we
Hmm.
get our servicemen and women and or our federal civilian service, we really, really roll out the red carpet. Not we don't do it for everybody else, but it's just near and dear to my heart
Yeah,
because
it's
we're the
not like
service
you
members.
don't roll out the red carpet for everyone. It's just that you've got special insights that can really help those people that need to understand FEGLI and all of these things that most people just don't have to deal with. And it makes me think too that even, if someone says, "Oh yeah, I've got that insurance covered because I've got it through my plan or through the military," being able to educate and teach and say, okay, that's great for this type of need. But, like harkening back to a previous conversation we had, there are some types of insurance that go well beyond just that death benefit. So being able to educate them and say, yeah, you're good there, but have you considered and have you looked at what if this happened? And I'll bet you that now you have got some clients that go, I would have never thought that. I would have just passed it over and said, no, I don't need it. But boy, you just really opened my eyes.
Yeah, most service members don't realize that until they go through TAP, the Transition Assistance Program. Most military members don't know that once they retire, that SGLI is out the window. it's gone.
Mm,
So that coverage that you once had, albeit, yeah, TRICARE on the health benefit side takes care of you for life. That
hmm
life insurance is no longer there. So that 400,000 that they may have, it's gone. So,
Yeah.
what do I do then? And in a lot of terms, Mike, from previous conversations we've had, most people in the military community don't have an idea, what insurance really is until they get out into
Yeah.
the real world, especially for those that
Yeah.
separate without any benefits.
And the problem is sometimes you learn those lessons when it's too late and you can't go turn back time and go fix it. So being proactive and having someone, educating you about what to expect, that's just worth its weight in gold.
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely.
So we've talked about building trust to engender long-term relationships. Huge. Like I don't want to have to go find a new whatever, attorney every other year. You want that long-term relationship. What advice would you give to people that are hesitant about trusting an advisor? Because let's face it, you're not just giving people advice on what color paint that they ought to paint their house. You're giving them advice on their life savings, their retirement. So there's a lot of trust and credibility that's needed there.
Definitely, Mike. For starters, if your person, the person that you're selecting to work with, if they can't explain to you, and they don't have the extensive knowledge, they have not put in the time to learn what it is. I think the consumer, Mike, will be able to show that or see that. I mean, quite, almost immediately. Then there are those that, they just have the gift of gab, if you will. And sometimes consumers get led in the wrong direction. So,
Mm,
again, with knowing that as a consumer, a lot of them going to follow their gut anyway. But, if you got a professional, you can go and Google and you've seen him or her, on out in the community,
yeah.
serving others, different things of that sort. Maybe there's some Google reviews that previous clients have left about him or her. That's going to really be an indicator that this person is in it for the long haul. This person has the compassion needed to serve in this industry, because let's face it, this is a ministry. This is a service.
Yeah. That you bring up a good point there, because sometimes anyone that is really smooth, they could talk a good talk, but do they have something to really back it up? And sometimes it takes that third party social proof, whether it's referrals from their friends or testimonials or reviews, whether it's online. What does Google say? Because I've heard Google being referred to as your Google resume, because anybody can type up a resume or type up a nice website and go, look how great I am. But when I get Googled, now that's the truth, because it's like, oh, well, so I think that that third party, that social proof, having people that want to work with you do their due diligence and checking it out, I think that really helps them feel comfortable in making that decision too.
Right, because they're yearning for somebody who's credible, and who's going to tell them the truth and be truthful. And when you have, reviews that are in the positive, it makes you at least comfortable. And then, dealing with us, we want to make sure that each of our consumers have a impressionable, memorable experience. And like I said in the opener, we're definitely relentless communicators. The slightest indication of rate changes or opportunities to maybe enhance what they have, they're going to know about it. And I think one can appreciate it, even if it's not for them at that particular time. One can appreciate that, they're being notified of something so important, because we all know that, again, like you said, you may be dealing with $500,000 in an annuity. This person has worked all their life and now they're trusting you as the professional to deal with it. And or you may have somebody who's looking for mortgage protection because, hey, what if my spouse passes, and if they don't have that, right product, with the right riders affixed to it. I mean, this is a ministry. This is a service. This is not for amateurs.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a really big point that you're bringing up is this is not like, like my facetious, funny example about, what paint color to paint your living room. If you were given bad advice and you picked the wrong color, okay, it might have cost you a few hours and a couple bucks of your time, but you can fix that easily. In
Right.
cases like this, when we're talking about retirement, insurance, investments, things like that, having that trusted advisor is so critical because if you made a bad decision, it could be very costly as far as setting up the wrong thing or missed opportunities.
Yeah, putting a client, for example, in a SPIA, probably the worst thing you could ever do. But someone uneducated that can talk the lingo, it sounds like it's something. And the reason why I think about the SPIA, we just dealt with a couple who was sold a SPIA, and the SPIA stands for a single premium immediate annuity. This couple was looking for an avenue to have permanent income, and then all while the SPIA can answer that fees that come along with it. They just were not, they were just not told about, educated
Yeah.
upon it. So we were able to come in and correct it, but it did cost them. So yeah, they couldn't change the color of the paint. Those dollars were lost, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, we were able to paint a better picture by moving them into some more consumer friendly products.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And then again, there is not one specific solution that fits every single person. So it's all custom because everyone has different needs. Everyone has different goals. And then once you do put a solution in place, it's not the solution that can maintain for decades because outside things change, taxes, inflation, your family grows or declines. So all of the things need to be updated and stayed on top of, whether it's quarterly or every year. So I think that's a big piece that people also miss out on. They just set it and forget it and hope that it's fine, but you need to make sure that it's continuing to do what it's intended to do.
Right, Mike. Yeah, definitely.
So that ties right in with that long-term relationship. Well, I tell you, it's been really great to hear how you approach things and your values. And it's just so encouraging to see that there's people out there doing the right thing by their clients. So if someone is interested in connecting with you, what's the best way that they can do that, Scheavosky?
Great. Yeah, Mike, people can reach me through, they can reach me on the web, My Insurance Professional, all one word, myinsuranceprofessional.com. You go in there and you can peruse our website, leave us a request for quote, and we typically try to return those answers within 24 hours.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a real pleasure talking with you.
Hey, thanks again, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.